wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Milam. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. When I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Par-Mar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Par-Mar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Par-Mar app and sign up for the Par-Mar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Par-Mar stores.
If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
Hello and welcome, my friends. On this day, it's Thursday, August 10th. Boy, it keeps getting closer and closer and closer. Man, I'll tell you, I can feel it. Is your blood starting to boil? Just a little bit, right? Is your blood starting to just get a little bit excited? Well, I certainly am, and I hope you are as well. And that makes me want to go right off the bat, get this network thing going on here. The network, if you want to join the network, if you're a fine food establishment, restaurant, bar, whatever, you can join the network. All you got to do is give me an email at wolfmanscall@gmail.com. Really easy. And we're so happy with the ones we have. We've got to start out with Archies there, East Carson Street in Pittsburgh. Yeah, Mike Manning up there. Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're watching today and getting it going on, because you know what? That Pitt, West Virginia game is getting closer. Take it down to Bridgeport, man. Right there, Rob Davis. Rob, eat local at Brickside Bar and Grille in Bridgeport. Love it, man. Love the Davis family. All cool, great people. And then, of course, you got Jimbo's there. You have Jimmy Pointer. What's up, Jimmy? And what's going on? All of you at Jimbo's place in Buckhannon and Jimbo's place in Elkins, man. All the wings are good. And then you got the royalty. That's right, WV Royalty, Kegler Sports Bar and Grille. Jerry the Wrens, Dougie Moore, Greg the Wrens, Steve the Wrens, Kiss the Ring. It's royalty, no doubt about it. And you got out there Cheat Lake, Aaron Gizzy, Legends Sports Bar and Grille. Hit those links, get out there on that golf course. You can golf a lot better than I can. I'll tell you that much, that's for sure. And in Fairmont, we got Steve Reese is also in Morgantown. It's the Mason Jar. Fairmont and Morgantown. In Fairmont is barbecue and more. Unbutton those britches and Mason Jar Saloon and Hotspot in Morgantown. Right past Morgantown Mall, man. Right up there on Fairmont Road. That's Morgantown Mall. Incredible food. Always good time. And then you got the Pallet down in Teays Valley. There's Scott Deeple, Haley, Audrey. Hey, tip your servers well. They're great people. And I love it. Can't wait to be doing a show down there as well. That's right, at the Pallet Bar. And then, of course, we're going to be at Cantwell's, River City, and Grille. We got at Hinton, West Virginia. They were the last ones to join, but we're so happy that they're with us because they rock and roll right in the river, man. Right on the river. And then you got Route 22 Sports Bar. You can't go wrong. 1250-inch screen TVs. They got the whole tap system is bottoms up. They put that glass right on down. You just tap it out. It's pretty awesome. Pretty cool. The network is incredible. You can see it there, and you can watch it all the time. Go to your favorite place, where your watering hole, where your favorite food is. Say, hey, man, 4 to 6, we want to watch, the WolfMan's call. Do it. I'm telling you. And rock and rolls. And what else you going to do on a Monday through a Thursday, 4 to 6? You're going to hang out. You got to get those specials. Well, you might as well sit here and get informed on WVU. That's what today's all about. And that is getting informed on WVU, on football, on sports, all that. Hopefully get educated. Hope you educate me a little bit and I grow, because I certainly need to as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at the voice of college football. That's right. Voice of college football, West Virginia. Do we go ahead and take a look at it here? And this is what you got, man, is, subscribe on YouTube, West Virginia football at the voice of college football. That's VOCFB at West Virginia VOCFB. Why? Because WolfMan's called Rots. And you know it, man. Check it out. That's pretty cool there. And we'll continue on here. What do we got next? What kind of work do I have to do? Well, I'm going to have our first guest, and that's going to be Dan Manucci's coming in. Now, Manucci is out there in Phoenix, Arizona. He's on the Roc and Manucci show with Jimmy B on 910 Fox Sports out there in Phoenix, Arizona. He's going to come and talk to us here about what's going on with Arizona State, U of A, all that Pac-12. He thrives it. Listen, Manucci out there, he's been a quarterback coach out in Phoenix, Arizona. Known him for the last 20 years. Great friends of my brother Ronnie out there in Phoenix. And, he's a former Buffalo Bill, Arizona Wrangler, when they had the Wranglers out there as a quarterback. He was Kansas State. He knows the Big 12. 77 through 81 Kansas State. And, again, like I said, he's been a broadcaster for 18 years. And he knows exactly what's going on in the football world. He knows exactly what's going on with ASU, U of A. And this is good stuff here. Before we get on there, let's go to our QR codes. And we'll jump on it, man. Hey, one thing I want you to jump on here, the sports column show. That's Frank Fears, the Band of Brothers. Make sure you QR code that in the sports column. If you're a person that likes to write articles and you want to get published, you can submit it right here to the sports column. It's really amazing, and there's some great stories on there that you don't hear mainstream. You hear a lot of good stories, and Frank Fear is always on there. He's the editor. Make sure you get on there, the sports column. That's pretty important, I have to say. And then here we go. For all you folks out there, I keep saying it, Paul Mini, rechargers, and batteries. Never buy another AA battery again. Go ahead. Order your batteries. They recharge. You have the Pallet deck. I've run 2 shows when the power went out here in the Wolf's Den studio. I had to run a show in the dark for you that are following who know what I'm talking about. It was very interesting, but the show went off, and it went off without a hitch, and it's because of Power Mini. Power Mini batteries and rechargers. Never buy a AA battery again. Go green. Save green, right? How about this? AGC, Artisan Grange Company. Hemp dip. There you go, baby. You go to wolfmandip.com right there. That takes you right to AGC, Artisan Grange Company for sales. Or you can go to Palmer Stores, our number 1 sponsor here, Palmer Stores, title sponsor. And we love them as well. There's no nicotine. There's no tobacco. Man, you can't beat that. Go ahead, QR code it, man. I'm telling you. You guys are missing out. And then we got Johnny Cantwell here in West Virginia United. And United Purpose, West Virginia we stand. Again, it's catching on. We're going to keep pumping it up. We're going to keep doing it. And West Virginia United, United in Purpose. And you get stickers, you get decals, you get all that good stuff. So that's our QR codes. And don't forget about it. The sports column, Power Mini rechargers and batteries, Artisan Grange Company, Hemp Dip, and West Virginia United. Anything on the chat factory? We're right here. I think we're good. Do I see anything going? All right. Timothy Green. Kudos Wolfman for always having the best guests. Well, I got Manucci on today. Hey, guess who else I got on? I have John D'Animo from the Big Ten. Yeah, he likes Michigan. He's going to break it down a little bit. But we're also going to talk about what's going on in the Big Ten this week. And he's doing a great job filling in for us. Bottom of the hour. And then Tony Altimer. You got to stay tuned for Tony. He's got something that's really cool. The Pac-12's done this before. Say, what? Well, you better follow and stay tuned. Oh, you got John Diadamo, 4:30 at bottom of the hour. And then you got 4:45. You got Tony Altimer. But first, we have, of course, the Manucci. And that would be Dan Manucci. So here we go. Thank you to all. And we're going to go ahead and get this off so we can put up Manucci there. And I hope you enjoy. And I have it here, man. I've been promising you this, and we got it worked out. And there's not a problem with the printer schedule. We got Dan Manucci from Roc Manuch with Jimmy B from 910 Fox Sports. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Neal. Always great to catch up with you. We always wonder what the heck all the Wolfleys are doing. So we track your brother down. You track your brother down. Ron, you got Craig, you got you. There's like 20 of you Wolfleys out there, so it's nice to catch up with you and see what's going on back there in the West Virginia, the Big 12, with reference to my K-State Wildcats. I'm just glad you guys joined a real conference for crying out loud. So nice to see that, but always great to see you, Dale.
You know what? I'm so glad too. And you've been broadcasting for 18 years on the radio. You coach quarterbacks, and I'm going to get into that just real quick. But you've also been on TV as an analyst. Buffalo Bills, Kansas State, as you said, and that was back to 81, the 77 to 81 range. I mean, really, man. I mean, you've been all over the place. It's coming back full circle. ASU, U of A, Big 12. But before I even get into that, because I said you are a coach for quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. Man, besides the many that you've coached, Brock Purdy has been one of your guys. What do you tell Brock Purdy when he plays in the Super Bowl, Manucci?
You know what I tell him? Just relax, have fun, and do your thing. Brock Purdy is one of those young men, Dale, over the years, and training him since the 9th grade, he's always worked hard. He's been diligent. He wants to learn. He wants more. And I've told a lot of people, I said, he's the kind of guy that's like, thank you, sir, may I have another. What else do we have? What else can I work on? He's very focused. He's diligent. And he's the kind of young man that just gets it. He understands what it takes to get to that level. And Brock's the kind of guy that's never satisfied. I talked to his dad the other day, Sean Purdy, and we were talking about Brock, and he's coming back to practice off that collateral ligament that he had at UCLA, and he was a little bummed because he missed about 3 or 4 throws. Well, you're going to miss 3 or 4 throws, Brock. You haven't thrown in like 5 months, but he's just that kind of a guy. Yeah. He's very sequential in his reads. He understands. But you know what, Dale? You would love him. He's just always working, always grinding, and he loves it. Because as you and I both know, if you don't love what you're doing to get to that level day in and day out, it kind of wears on you. But Brock is the kind of guy like yourself and me and so many guys have made it to the high level. You can't wait to get up and do it again. And that's how Brock Purdy is.
Yeah, what a fantastic story it was last year. I mean, just watching him. I mean, he's a rookie, man, and all that. And I watched him, so I got to watch him and heard us at Iowa State, okay? I know Brock Purdy very, very well from being with WVU, but I do think he's a total class act, and I think he could be really special. So kudos to that, and kudos for you for helping him along. And you can take credit for that one.
Well, I will take credit for all those great plays and great throws. Some of those interceptions, hey, that's on Brock.
Exactly, man. All right, so you're Phoenix. You're the thumbprint. You feel the vibe. ASU. A lot of people may not understand that even though there's ASU's right there in Phoenix, Tucson's only an hour, 10 minutes away. U of A, state flagship school. So you got to cover both sports. Well, what's the deal about? What's everybody saying about, the Big 12?
It's about damn time you joined the Big 12. That's what they're saying, Wolf. The hesitation for ASU was inexplicable. I get Michael Crow, the president, Ray Anderson, the athletic director, wanted one last shot from the Pac-12 to see what Apple was going to do with their streaming, what have you. That deal is still a pipe dream. It was still potential. And then here's the Big 12 saying, look, we've got this TV package. We've got these media rights. You're going to make $35 million plus or minus a year. what's the holdup? But I think when ASU really saw how committed University of Arizona was to making that move, they already saw what Colorado did almost a month ago.
Right.
And Coach Prime was like, let's go get it on. And at that point, I think when you had U of A committed, I think the Board of Regents here in Arizona were highly recommending that ASU join in and move on to keep that rivalry, keep those things going. And then when Utah got on board to say, hey, look, we're making the move. We want to keep that rivalry with BYU, who's already a part of the Big 12. It all started to make sense. And for Michael Crow and Ray Anderson, I get it. You know, all the digital wave that's going to be coming down the road. But there were still no hard numbers on the table, Dale. And I think that at that point, Michael Crow realized, look, we're going to the Big 12. We're going to play big boy ball. We're going to get great exposure. We're going to play in just about every time zone every week. And oh, by the way, how about the recruiting we're going to see out there from a lot of players east of the Mississippi, Texas, north of Manhattan, Kansas, you know, west, all the way around. I think he understood it was the best move for Arizona State. He was really the last bastion, if you will, Wolf, to go ahead. And once that was there, that came together, Big 12 said, let's go. So the vibe and the feeling is, hallelujah. The Big 12 basically, I think, rescued U of A, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona State University to go make big money, go have great exposure, and guess what? Go get those recruits, not only in football, basketball, baseball, etc.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But let's take it back a step here. How did it come about that USC, UCLA just erupted out of nowhere? I mean, the Pac-12 seemed like it was doing fine. You know, it always had problems being on the West Coast for time, all that time zone stuff. But it was Pac-12, been around forever, right? So you look at that, and then USC, UCLA came out. How did the rest of the Pac, you know, feel about that?
That was a bombshell, Dale. It really was. For USC and UCLA to go, we're looking at the Big Ten because, let me see here. We'll probably make maybe 20 to 25 million a year versus 70 million a year with the TV package. And I think the other thing too, you got to realize this is that the Big Ten was looking at that Southern California market, the LA market, huge market. So USC and UCLA teamed up and said, hey, look, it's a great deal. Maybe we travel an extra hour and a half or two to get there. But basically the boondoggle, the cash coming in was blowing away anything even close to what the Pac-12 was going to give you. And I think the other thing too is so much a lack of exposure. The Pac-12 network was only seen on some of the local cable channels. Mm-hmm. They never did a deal with DirecTV, which hurt them. Right. So basically exposure was being hurt by lack of TV viewing for those two big teams, and Oregon and Washington as well too. But to your point, when that shoe dropped, that USC and UCLA were leaving and being a part of the Big Ten in 2024, everybody went, whoa, what about us? You guys are our staple. You guys are the anchor tenant of this big mall that we're part of. And you had the huge Nordstroms and the Macy's, if you will, at the mall. They're going down the road to go join this other conglomerate of malls and be the big dog. But then you had the other retail people going, well, we feed off of you guys. Yeah. So at that point, it was game on. And we even said at this point, this is what I said, Roc and I said about a year ago. With that being in place, if I was ASU, Utah, Colorado, or U of A, I would go to the Big 12 immediately and say, look, us four, we're available because it looks as though the anchor tenant's leaving and there's not enough foot traffic to support us, or in this case, media traffic or media rights money to survive and play against the big boys.
There's no doubt about it, but it didn't happen. It didn't go down like that. No. And I say, to me, looking from afar from West Virginia, so my viewpoint's really far east, but they look more reactive than proactive. Brett Yormack, the Big 12 commish, comes on. I mean, you know, Bowlesby even set it up with the other four schools, the UCF, Houston, BYU, Cincinnati. So that he was being proactive then and stabilizing the Big 12. So I think that they could reach out now and finish off here with the other four schools, the four corner schools, as they like to call them. But again, the Pac-12, it did not seem they could get it together.
No, and I think because to that point right there, I think other teams started to really realize and wake up and say, hey, look, the Pac-12 is not going to have a bona fide media package. And there was a lot of leaks about ESPN, FS1, Fox, and a lot of the big carriers, if you will, that they were looking at the Pac-12 as I don't want to say a stepchild, but basically as a situation that was not real valuable for viewing. And when that word got out there, that was a key word that sent USC and UCLA out. And then after that, the teams were just kind of like, well, if we can get a media package and keep the Pac-10 together, then so be it. Come to find out, Dale, a year later, there's still no package. So Larry Scott hurt the Pac-12 when he was a commissioner. And then you have George Kliavkoff coming in. He hasn't been able to get anything together for over a year. So these teams are going, now, wait a second. If USC and UCLA are moving on because they're going to be making maybe close to 60, 70 million a year with the new TV package, we don't have one. And if we do get one, it would be streaming only and only maybe 20 million a piece. And you'll get more if you go get more subscriptions. Well, what are we going to do? Send our players out there, start knocking on doors to get more subscriptions so you get more money? This was not going to work. And at that point, Colorado saw what was going on. And I believe this. I really believe. When they hired Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, I think Coach Prime said, look, I will come if you look. This is my speculation of it. Right. I will come if you look to move this team where I need exposure. Now, that could be a two-way street because the Big 12 is going, wow, Colorado's now got Coach Prime. He's a magnet. And so it's a two-way street for them. And I think that was a marriage made in heaven. But the key was Coach Prime getting to Colorado, Big 12 seeing that, and them going, okay, let's work that together. They got ahead of it, knowing they're going to make close to 35, 40 million versus a potential deal in the Pac-12. So once Colorado left, I think the dominoes really started to fall. And that's when U of A and ASU and Colorado and Utah started to go, wow, this thing's starting to fall apart. We need to fend for ourselves. And that's what happened.
Well, that's the way it always happens is when you start to see, the walls falling down, you got to look for survival. And that's how I see it. And rightfully so. And I think the Big 12 was right there geographically reaching out that way. Obviously, you had the Midwest schools. You got your Texas schools, which is only halfway. Yes, you got Cincinnati. Yes, you got WVU and UCF, but everybody else is pretty much west of the Mississippi, which only helps U of A, ASU, and the other schools. So let's go ahead. What schools? Let's break it down. Let's go U of A because I took a recruiting trip out there, so I've always been a U of A fan, always basketball fan with that. What does U of A bring to the Big 12?
Well, I think they're a growing program. I think Jed Fish is the head coach going into his third year. The young quarterback, they got Delara. They got a decent group of receivers. So we're looking into 2024. Delara will be back. Some of the guys, the receiving core will be gone. But the one thing is he's getting, at least in Arizona, in the Southwest, and Texas, he's getting traction in the recruiting world. So he's finally building that program. They're still, I think, a couple years away. But the one thing you have in Jed Fish that's the head coach is he's been there and done that at the pro level. He understands what it takes to go get the top-notch Arizona kids first and then build off of that. And then from a lot of folks' perspective, as you know, Dale, they got to get bigger, stronger, faster, and that's what he's really focusing on. So it's an up-and-coming program. Hopefully they get 4 to 5 wins this year. Going into next year with the young quarterback in Delara, probably going to that'll be his 3rd or 4th year at that point in time.
Yeah.
Trying to attract the speed and talent at U of A is part of I wouldn't say the issue, but part of the dilemma to try to get those kids down there. And then, Dale, we got to remember, who's got the NIL money to get those kids to help them to go compete with the Joneses of the Big 12. So that you got that as well too. And they've got a decent correlation or collective, if you will, but that's always going to be the challenge for U of A and for Arizona State for that fact as well.
Well, that's interesting. So before we get to ASU, for the people of West Virginia that may not be familiar with U of A's basketball, how it's pretty darn prestigious. Always been, to me, always seems like it's always been the top 25 for the last 30 years. How prestigious is it?
They're blue bloods. You know, you said west of Mississippi. You know, U of A, the U of A's, the UCLA's are moving on to the Big Ten. But that's really the key, which I think a lot of folks in Tucson are excited about, not only their football, but let's just face it, basketball rules down in Tucson. Mm-hmm. So now they're excited to play the KUs of the world, the West Virginias of the world, the Baylors of the world, Oklahoma, on and on. Yeah, I really feel, Dale, that the Big 12 will be one of the best, if not the best, basketball conference in America. Mm-hmm. And that's where that will help U of A grow from the recruiting standpoint, where a lot of people can now see, wow, this program that they've got down there is a phenomenal program. And they've got a lot of dudes on that team. So they're going to be in the top 10 each and every year. And if there's one benefactor, it's U of A's basketball. It's going to really help the conference.
Yeah, it sure does. And it's easier to collect 10 guys with NIL money than 100.
Yes, right.
Right? It's a lot easier. So basketball, to me, because I know West Virginia, they just came up with a $2 million NIL salary for the team. Some special guys there, like Casey Edwards from Sarah, obviously putting some money in. So it's a little bit easier that way than football. Let's go ahead and switch it now. U of A, I love U of A. ASU, always been a bit of a fan when I was out there at Phoenix College. But at the same time, what's the fight there with you have was it the Desert Wars or the Desert Battle of the Desert?
Oh I'll think of it here in a second. The good thing about that is the rivalry with ASU and U of A, and with Arizona State now that Kenny Dillingham's the first year head coach, a lot of enthusiasm, young guy, getting these guys to play at the next level speed. You got to remember, he was at Auburn and then he came from Oregon. So he's got that intensity, that excitement, that accountability factor that he's going to try to instill at Arizona State. Doesn't quite have the talent that he wants yet, but he's out there on the recruiting trail trying to get the bigger, stronger, faster. And if I think if there's one thing that U of A and ASU are lacking, Dale, is trying to compete with the size of the guys in the Big 12, lineman-wise,
really,
front seven, defensively-wise, etc. But they've got the speed. Trenton Morgay, who's their quarterback, you got a couple good quarterbacks there now. They got some decent receivers. But, again, they're going to be a program that's going to take a couple, 2-3 years to turn the corner because he's got to go get players. Yeah. He's got to be able to compete with the NIL money. And on top of that, he's got to go get bigger and stronger. And when Herm Edwards was here for his few years he was here, that's always been the knock, and Herm tried to get that satisfied. But the one thing that Kenny Dillingham has done, Dale, is he's been very successful in recruiting in Texas and in the Southeast when he was at Auburn and when he was at Oregon. So he's greased those skids to go into those homes, and in Southern California too, I might add. So they're very aware, those parents and those players, of Kenny Dillingham and what he can bring to the table. And on top of that, he's got an outstanding staff. Both of these schools have outstanding staffs, which is very key in teaching these players and getting them to the next level. So if ASU can conjure up 3 to 4 to 5 wins, and U of A can conjure up, let's say, 5 to 6 wins, that'll set the tone for them coming into the Big 12 next year.
Okay, well, very good. And what does ASU, in terms of prestige academically, in terms of numbers, what do they bring to the Big 12? Because it's a big school.
Yeah, they've got close to 85,000 students. You got the campus in Tempe, campus on the west side, campus in downtown Phoenix, so about 85,000. They're always good as far as academics are concerned. That's the one thing that Michael Crow has, as a president of ASU, has always prided ASU on, and you got to commend him for that. U of A is the same way. they've always had the higher standard and to make sure their guys are academically responsible. We heard Jed Fish and Kenny Dillingham talk about them being responsible in school, good citizens, hardworking kids, stay out of trouble, don't be a knucklehead on social media. That's kind of the mantra for both these coaches, and I love that. I'd rather have a kid that is a hardworking, diligent, focused, good kid that's always on par, always on time, than some kid that thinks he's all that and shows up late, or he thinks he's all that. I ain't got time for it. Matter of fact, Kenny Dillingham just let go of an outstanding linebacker that was at Texas, Tennessee, was looking to start at ASU. Well, he was late, having some, I would call it attitude issues.
Okay.
And Coach Dillingham said, not going to work here. Sorry. See ya. And I love that. You know, you and I both are cut from that cloth. You have Buffalo kid coming up with that hard blue collar work in your pop and your brothers. And you know what? Life is too short, and programs don't have the time and energy to deal with that. It's either you're on board or you're not. And if you're not, that's okay. Go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
But both these coaches aren't going to deal with it. So when you ask, what are these programs bringing? I think these programs are bringing integrity to the Big 12 and a focus to the Big 12 that I think the Big 12 can be proud of.
Well, and yeah, you heard that from the Manucci. My goodness, man. Dan Manucci, former Buffalo Bill, former Arizona Wrangler, former Kansas State Wildcat. He had it in the end there. I'm going to cut this a little bit short because I got to get moving on here as well. We got Big Ten to talk about. And how cool is that, though? Manucci, man. You know, he's coached Brock Purdy. He's coached so many quarterbacks out there in Arizona. I even think he's worked a bit with Nico Marchio here at WVU. So I'm just waiting there. I got a next dude coming on up from the Big Ten. He made a splash last week, and he'll be on from time to time. And he's very straightforward. He's very confident in the Michigan Wolverines and Big Ten. He co-hosts the Big Ten live show with Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And I actually like this dude, man, and I think he's really smart. So let's welcome John D'Adamo to the WolfMan's Call for the second time.
Hey, Wolfman.
John, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. You know, I like the advice. Don't be a knucklehead on social media.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is over at Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers. You know, we took knuckleheads and we've actually turned it into like a positive thing. So now anybody who's like a Patreon member or part of our kind of community, we call it's the knuckleheads at the Voice of College Football, because he says that all the time. So we kind of like reversed it, you know?
You made it a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Join the knuckleheads.
Join the
at the Voice of College Football.
Well, how do they go ahead and do that, John? Tell us how to do that.
Yeah, well, essentially, so first of all, a little bit, if you weren't here last week, so I host two shows on Voice of College Football. I do Michigan Wolverines live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you didn't, yesterday we had Dennis Fithian on the show from Maize and Blue Review. Highly recommend you check that out if you're at all interested in what's going on with Michigan. I usually host the Big Ten 8 p.m. block, the Ocho, where we have a panel discussion. And if you want to be a knucklehead at the Voice of College Football, just join the Patreon or join the YouTube for $2.99, the YouTube membership, and you'll get access to our Discord. So lots of ways to do that.
All right. Sounds very good, man. Well, what do we got cooking out here today? I wanted to check this out first before we get started. Bring it down anything Michigan. But right here is I took a look at this, and I thought this is kind of neat because today, the Big Ten, it's the NBC Universal Talents Big Day, showcasing college football's Big Ten Conference. Set to begin streaming games. I mean, this is part of that whole $7 billion package, man. Like, this is big stuff. Not happening anywhere else that I see or that I think about. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I think that it's just kind of part of this whole rollout because, for a while, NBC was mostly broadcasting Notre Dame and had that exclusive Notre Dame contract.
Right.
But now with the Big Ten joining, there are 6, 7, 8, 9 games that are going to be on NBC Sports. So they want to start gaining awareness, especially because some of these games are going to be exclusively on Peacock, which include East Carolina at Michigan. It's going to be exclusively on Peacock. Your game against Penn State will be on NBC as well. So luckily, West Virginia fans aren't going to have to go out and buy Peacock if they want to watch West Virginia at Penn State. So, it's I think they're just trying to get ahead of, some of their games are really interesting, like, Ohio State at Notre Dame. And some of their games are, Charlotte at Maryland and, Syracuse at Purdue. So they've got kind of a mixed bag. I think that they just want to roll it all out and let people know about it.
Well, I think it's a big deal. And again, is you got to enjoy that at every team is, as the numbers keep growing and growing, they have to show all these games, and they have to have avenues for these games to be seen and shown.
Sure.
And the streaming is really taken up. I mean, I know when ESPN Plus came out, people in West Virginia, a lot of them were not happy having to pay an extra $4.99 a month. And I don't know if it's the money. I think it was more just the whole attitude of it. But there's no way to get away from this. It's going to be subscription. Even though the Pac-12 just fell apart because they couldn't figure out that subscription, that's going to be the wave of the future, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're starting to see it already, and I think that you're going to see Amazon probably get into it. Amazon has that one game a week on the NFL,
right?
I think you're going to see Amazon get into the college football game too at some point. Apple, of course, was reported to be negotiating with the Pac-12. Well, that didn't work out too good, but these things are going to happen, and you're going to keep hearing more and more about some of these games being featured on streaming services.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So I don't think there's any way around it. I just noticed that today it was coming out with the Big Ten, and when you talk about Big Ten news, obviously the last time you were here, I don't think Washington had gone yet. So, all right, tell us about that before we even get into Michigan and how it's going to work out and how. I mean, they voted unanimously, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the short answer is I don't know how it's going to work out just yet because we don't have the schedule. But I think that if I speculated, they created this whole scheduling model, the Flex Protect Plus, where some schools have up as many as 3 protected rivalries. Some don't even have any, and then there's some in between. So I think Washington and Oregon are going to fit in there, and maybe have some rivalries with USC and UCLA, for example. Right. Maybe MSU gets in there with Washington. That's kind of been a bit of a thing recently. So I think you'll see some stuff like that. But it really, Voice of College Football, our traffic spiked like crazy when Washington and Oregon were announced, because I think people just can't get enough of this realignment stuff. And so everybody was on like trying to get more information about what's happening. But the reality is, all we really know right now is the PR spin of, we're very excited to be joining the conference and all of that kind of stuff. 18 is a lot for a conference, and you're starting to see this creep into almost super conference territory now. I think the SEC is going to punch back again now. They have to, and eventually, I think you're headed towards an NFL-like system where there's 2 conferences, and
you're going for that the 2 because the big 2. We just had Frank Fear on yesterday talking about that how the numbers are going to get more and more disparaging between the haves and the have-nots. What is each team going to get for the Big Ten next year?
Yeah, so
the coming years, I should say.
So they're getting a portion of the total share. I think it's like a half share a piece, and then as it as they go. They gain a $1 million per year after that. So I'm trying to nail down the official number, because I've heard some different amounts, but I know that they're starting with about a half share, from what the rest of them are.
What's the rest of the numbers?
Which is still more. Well, it's still more than what I was going to say. Is it's still more than the Apple deal was going to be. So that's why they kind of wanted to do that. But
okay. No, I get it. But so when everybody's a full member, what I'm getting at is how much is it going to be for the for the payouts?
So somewhere in the 45 million range, I believe.
45 million.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you add in tier 3, and you keep adding, and they could be up to be 55, 60, right?
Yeah. So it's looking like I just pulled it up. So according to this article here, about 30 million when they join the league, and then it's going to increase by $1 million each year through the 2029 and 30 season. And then the others are going to receive, I was a little off, so 60 million annually. So yeah, I mean, because it's like $1 billion total media deal. So yeah, they're going to get closer. So I was right with the half share. So 30 million, and then you keep going from there.
Wow, that's a lot of money. Okay. Well, I hope that we can still have other conferences that are important that still factor in. I think the Big 12 is still there for right now, but we'll see. So let's go ahead. I got you for a couple more minutes here, and I don't want to be too long, but let's talk Michigan, man. Give me a breakdown. This is your team, so give me your breakdown on why they're number one. And you can go general. I'm not asking for details. Just because.
Well, they're not number one in the rankings. They're number 2. Georgia's number 1. In the Big Ten, they're number 1. And even Mark Rogers has crowned them as the number 1 in the Big Ten right now. And I think that the storylines from fall camp so far that we've heard from the first week of fall camp include things like that JJ McCarthy, given the fact that he had all of spring this time around, is being compared to quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. He is actually gelling with his wide receivers now because he actually had spring. He doesn't have to compete with Cade McNamara for the ones anymore and the reps with the ones. So that's really huge. We're hearing that it's the most, in terms of the O-line, Jim Harbaugh said that there are 10 guys who could start on almost any roster in the country in the O-line. So it's one of the most talented he's had at Michigan. And that's saying something because the last 2 years they won the Joe Moore Award. So just in general, we're seeing more passing in practice. The fall camp, more practice. Zach Zinner said we're passing more than we have before. And so it's looking like they are trying to position themselves to stay number 1 in the Big Ten. In a Big Ten where almost every single school, the quarterback is changing. So other than Michigan and Maryland with Talia, almost every other school is breaking in a new quarterback, whether it's McCord or Brown with Ohio State, whether it's Drew Aller with Penn State, Cade McNamara coming into Iowa, Mordecai, Wisconsin, and so on and so on. Like, these things are happening. So if there's a year for Michigan to break through the Big Ten, win again, and then have a case for the national championship, it's this year.
Well, I think Penn State has something to say about that. Because I've been hearing about it all the time. I've been listening to them. They really think this is their year. And then you have Ohio State, and those top 3 are going to be pretty competitive, I think.
Yeah, they're going to be top 7 in the country. Both of them are going to be top 7. And, I'm just not sold on Penn State. I'm not sold on their quarterback. I'm not, we haven't seen enough game film to really evaluate it properly.
Yeah, he's a youngin' still, but he's a
youngin'.
But I tell you what, he better have an offensive line. They say they have, because he can't move.
It's true. You need an offensive line. That's we've had Penn State fans come on to the show, the Big Ten show, and basically say that their season's going to be won or lost on their lines because they've got the skill players around, but can they can they outcompete up front against the toughest of the Big Ten? They haven't shown that yet, and in order to win the Big Ten, they need to do that.
Well, to be the best, you got to beat the best, brother. You got to prove it. Last question. You say that Michigan's passing more than they have in camp.
Yeah.
Why the car's not broken or the wheel's not broken? Why fix it?
Because it is broken when it comes to the elite games. So really last year, what you saw was nobody questioned Michigan's ability to run the ball. But if you want to keep defenses honest, really JJ and the receivers didn't start gelling against difficult opponents until Ohio State. And then you did see against Ohio State, against Purdue, and even at times in the TCU game, at times, to be very clear, at times it didn't work out, but you started to see it starting to gel more. But it's still not where I think anybody wanted it to be, given the fact that JJ was out all of spring. He had to compete in the fall with Cade. Now they're actually practicing. We're hearing that Roman Wilson is having a really strong camp based on what we've seen, and Cornelius Johnson. And then Tyler Morris is the one that people may not have heard of, who played with JJ in high school. Right. And now he's considered the front runner to be the slot receiver. So watch out for him as well.
No doubt about it. Okay, well, you answered it pretty good. I mean, it seems to me like you've been studying up. I have 2 shows on it, so I guess you're pretty tight. So good job, John. Hey, if you want to follow John D'Animo, it's right there on Twitter at John D'Animo, and he's the Big Ten at 5 o'clock on Wednesdays and at 8 o'clock. Is that on Wednesdays as well? The Ocho?
So the Ocho's Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Michigan Wolverines live 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. So
that's what I had to repeat it because I'll. Right. Hey, John, thanks, I appreciate it, brother. Take care now.
Thanks, Wolfman. Have a great one.
Yep, good hit. All right, John D'Animo. I'll tell you, he knows that Big Ten, and he's not positive Penn State is gonna be that team yet to at least take out Michigan or be the top dog. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to be interested to find out September 2nd, WVU going to Happy Valley. I've been there a couple times. It's tough, no doubt about it. All right, so now I got something here I think that's really cool, and that's our Pac-12 guy that reps it out, and he's a strategist for the conference and conference realignment, and he's involved and extremely popular, extremely knowledgeable, and that, of course, is going to be Tony Altimore. And let me just get him up here. Hey, Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing? Fight on.
Yeah, fight on. Tony, you know what? Before we get into it, man, let's go ahead and talk about your experiences. Give us your background here so people understand where you're coming from.
Sure. I've done a number of things work-wise. Worked for Central Intelligence Agency, done investment banking, but I now do strategy consulting work. Primarily for companies. And when a lot of the realignment stuff started in 2021, I found that a lot of the media folks didn't really sort of understand the broader picture of how higher ed stuff approached these things and a lot of the math and the finances behind it. So I started trying to help some of them get a background on it. And from there was invited to help with a couple of podcasts and all that. And now just in addition to regular work, also for fun, kind of help co-host with the Voice of College Football Community, our Pac-12 chat show, and the USC postgame live. So I'm a devout USC Trojan who grew up in Big Ten country. And then I did my MBA at the Weirton School at Penn. But for your audience, I come from a West Virginia native family. So they're from Mannington, and I think they were there before independence. So
before they turned into the state of West Virginia, they were there.
Exactly.
Hey, they were there.
All
right. Very good. All right, Tony. So you got something here you came up with this week. And let me go ahead and let's just start to pull it up here. If I got this in the wrong order, tell me, because I couldn't remember which one you told me here. But as I pull this up, is that the first one you want to look at?
That's the first one.
Okay. All right. So very good. Let's take a look here. Let me actually jack this around so we can go ahead and get a really good look at it and blow this up. There we go. Okay. Go ahead now. Start out because this is so fascinating. I'm telling you, people, this is something you wouldn't know.
So here's the wild thing. You're hearing a lot of people who don't understand history or the Pac-12 say that the Pac-12 is 100 years old. It's not. The Pac-12 was founded in 1959 because before the Pac-12, there was a thing called the Pacific Coast Conference. And the Pacific Coast Conference imploded and collapsed in exactly the same way for a lot of exactly the same reasons in exactly the same order with the exact same schools as the Pac-12. And what's wild is that USC and UCLA, now in the 50s, Cal was with them, but USC and UCLA were very upset about, there was a lot of things, but it had to do with broader structure of the conference and revenue sharing and money, and they got mad and they quit the conference. Mm-hmm. And what happened then immediately, like the next day, schools started applying to replace them. And just like today, in the 1950s, the Pacific Coast Conference. Now, the Pacific Coast Conference was the Pac-8 plus Idaho. So it was USC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Washington State, and Idaho. And a lot of times they were split like, 4 to 5 on lots of things. It was almost like the Supreme Court. They hated each other. So USC, UCLA, and Cal quit, just like USC and UCLA quit. So if you look here, you see the newspapers, 1957 and 2022, literally the LA Times is using the same phrasing in their headlines. And just like then, people started to freak out. Is the conference going to collapse? Well, the conference didn't have to collapse. The conference immediately could have added members. Immediately after that happened, some of the Cal State schools and Utah and some other schools tried to join the Pacific Coast Conference. Just like in the past year, San Diego State and SMU and Boise, all kinds of people have been begging to join the Pac-12 to shore it up.
Right.
But what did they do? Nothing. They sat and farted around and did nothing. They dinked around, they did whatever. And then what happened? If you want to put the next one.
Yep.
What happened was after a while of doing nothing and thinking they were fine, they were stunned by Washington deciding to go and join USC and UCLA. And that imploded the conference. And this is a riot. I mean, here you have the Washington leaving the conference in the spring of 58 and Washington leaving the conference here in the summer of 23. And if you look at that, there are quotes from the Washington State presidents from both years, 65 years apart.
Right.
And in 1957 or 1958, they were stunned. And last week they were shocked. It's literally the same thing happened again. The Washington regents had a secret meeting and they said, this conference is not sustainable without the LA schools and we're leaving. Now, was it sustainable without the LA schools? Absolutely. Did this have to happen? No. But they dinked around until it was too late. And then with Washington gone, that was too much for the conference to handle. Now, at this time, this is before Phil Knight. Oregon was like worse than Oregon State. They were like a terrible joke, bad team. So Oregon's a little different, and Cal's a little different in the past to today. But literally the exact same thing happened, and they did not learn from their history one bit, and they repeated it verbatim in the headlines.
Well, I guess it's true. If you don't know your history, you'll make the same mistake again, won't you? That's
right.
How can you apply that to all of life right now, right?
Exactly. It was crazy, and I've been worried. I'm like, you learn I told people this. You learn in the 50s. You have to patch your holes, and that's the thing that the Big 12 did phenomenally well, both in 2012 when they added West Virginia and TCU, and in 2021. Is you have to patch your holes. You have to strengthen your conference when you have a crack. It's like, and yeah, is it as good as it was before? I mean, so I think West Virginia was a great ad. I mean, we could talk forever about, you guys have a fascinating history that goes back to being screwed, I think, by the Ivy League schools from the ECAC days. That's a whole nother topic. But, the Big 12 is known how to patch its cracks. Yes. And the Pac-12 didn't patch its cracks. And part of me wonders, I don't mean to be a tinfoil hat here, but whether they just did the same thing they did in the 50s and said, okay, we're just going to flail around and hope that they wait to join us. Because here's the other thing that happened in the 50s. And this sort of makes me wonder this a little bit. So you guys, the WAC, the old school WAC?
Yes.
So when the old school WAC was forming, so USC and UCLA were so mad from the 50s at Oregon and Oregon State and Washington State and Idaho, UCLA actually severed relations as a school with them. They like wouldn't even talk to them.
Really?
It was wild. It was like North Korea in the US, right? Like they were just like, no, we're severing relations with you. Well, those schools, the WAC badly wanted those schools to join. And in fact, a lot of people say the WAC was delayed in its launch and creation because those schools were dinking around trying to convince the new PAC to forgive them and let them join.
Right.
And I kind of wonder if like the Stanford and Cal thing, if they have been screwing around thinking that the Big Ten would come and get them. The difference is at the time you didn't have Fox with the purse strings.
Right.
And now you do.
Very true. And subscriptions, I think somebody was saying with the whole Pac-12, they were looking for 100 million subscriptions, and Netflix in relativity has like 75 million.
No, they only needed like 1.5 million. It really is. It was a very manageable number.
Huge
The
number.
thing was, but they have 14 million subscribers already to the Pac-12 network.
Well, right.
And you think also, by the way, it's not just your fans; it's broader folks. What really hurt the Pac-12 over the past decade is its major brands stunk. The thing about the Pac-12 network, if you were like somebody from McKinsey in 2010 pitching the Pac-12 network, it was a brilliant idea. They copied the same model that the Yankees and Mets used. I mean, it's a smart model. It works. The difference is you can't have all your flagship teams stink for the decade of the conference.
Yeah, because I had a membership for the Pac-12.
Yeah,
I still do, I think.
Think about it this way. So they were really bad they didn't get the distribution. They didn't get direct TV. They couldn't get people to want it. Think about it this way. If the Pac-12 had just not stunk, right? If USC didn't stink, Washington didn't stink, Colorado wasn't atrocious, Arizona didn't stink, Arizona State didn't stink, Cal didn't stink. If those teams weren't bad, then DirecTV would have had to find a way to get it. People would have had to find a way to put it on because there would have been demand. But as long as those teams stank, and the conference also was terrible at getting its distribution, and they didn't have a partner because they wanted to try to pocket the money themselves, they really did a whole series of mistakes that led to it themselves. But it was still all salvageable, is the wild thing.
Yeah.
But they blew it by not doing. They literally did nothing for a year, and they blew it.
Yeah, they sure did. Being reactive for sure. Now, so that really makes me move on to wanting to know this, because that Washington and Oregon's going to be fine, and the other schools will be fine in the Big 12, at least for right now. Let's just say right now. But obviously, Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, and Stanford, what are they going to do in your opinion, Tony?
That is a really good question. Cal and Stanford are begging the ACC right now. Now, I'll tell you, I truly believe that the Cal and Stanford particularly have failed their ability to be able to flex their academic muscle and get themselves into somewhere. They failed all year. I mean, these are the University of California. If the rest of us are little boats, the University of California is an aircraft carrier, right? Like, I mean, Cal, if you look at like the money that Cal controls, the influence that Cal has, they've just completely failed to do anything about it. And now they find themselves stranded and without options. And they did not do what they had to do. I mean, they really had a lot of stuff that they could have been doing that they weren't this whole time. So will they finally smarten up and flex enough muscles to get the ACC to let them in? I mean, they'd be wonderful in the ACC. They'd be wonderful in the Big 12. The Big 12 probably doesn't want them. I mean, they have, who knows? We'll see. Really, I think the Big 10 should let them in because they fit in the Big 10. They would be good for the Big 10. The financial benefits to the broader Big 10 would be good. The University of California should offer its entire system to the Big 10 Academic Alliance. Because I don't know if you know this. The University of Cal, the AAU schools, the high fancy, the University of California has 8 of them.
Yeah.
8. So, all that stuff should be part of the Big 10 Academic Alliance. They should be throwing that out there. But I think the failure is not just, so their chancellor's retiring. It's not just at the chancellor and the AD level. It's at the system president and the regent level that they have failed to secure Cal's future. And Stanford has just had inept leadership for the past several years. Their president has been under fire. He should have been fired a year ago. They just fired him last month. And so Stanford is essentially presidentless as they're trying to solve this existential crisis.
All right. Well, that's okay. So we know that Stanford and Cal. I still think Stanford, if they got their act together, could go independent for a few years before someone did bring them in. Cal, I'm not so sure about, but because I think they got a huge budget. They can't go Mountain West because you go Mountain West, you're not going to have the money to sustain it unless California's going to keep paying for them. The state I'm talking about, because it's a huge, huge budget. As you were saying, they were very, very large.
Well, and the other thing they could do is they could perhaps do like a football, kind of do what Brigham Young did, and that is do football independent and put the rest of your sports in the Big West.
Okay.
Now, the Big West is the conference that is the rest of the University of California's.
Right.
And the Cal State. So they could do that. And actually, depending on
basketball as well, Tony.
I mean, you don't have a lot of choice because you gotta have them somewhere. Right. There's also a bunch of sports that USC and UCLA sponsor that are not going to the Big Ten.
Okay. Well.
Just because the big beach volleyball. I mean, USC is the reigning national champion in beach volleyball, where they played UCLA. So there's a lot water polo, a lot of stuff like that it's not Big Ten. Yeah. That they could work with USC and UCLA on, work with Washington and Oregon on. Maybe the Big West would be an answer. The University of California controls, I think, more than half of the Big West. Right. So you could exercise enough to be like, okay, we need a temporary home. We can leave at any point. Let us in. I don't know if that's the answer or not.
Not bad though for an option if you had to.
If you had to. The other thing they could possibly do is do like a couple of years with the Mountain West or something like that, where they come in on such a condition that then they can get out. I don't know. The real heartbreaking one is Oregon State. Now, Washington State, I don't feel as bad for because their president has been one of the leaders in the Pacs not doing anything. So I feel like they've dug their own grave. I feel bad for the fans, but not for the school. As for Oregon State has done everything right. They brought in Jonathan Smith. They've rebuilt that football program into something amazing. They won 10 games last year. They are probably the best baseball team west of the Rockies. Oregon State it's a great school. It's actually pretty close to Portland. There's a kind of people imagine it being in the boonies. It's not. It's like 45 minutes or something out of Portland. Beautiful campus, great school, and they are being absolutely shafted in this.
No kidding. Well, I'll tell you what. In Oregon, State, I'm looking at it. The guy told me they just put like $120 million in the stadium, fixing it all up.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's really unfair. And Oregon State's also a really good school too. I mean, Oregon State, it reminds me a lot of WVU in some ways. It's like 45 minutes outside the big city. Yeah. It's a land grant school to serve the state. Beautiful campus, kind of like the rolling hills. So there's a lot of not as crazy of fun fans as WVU, but a lot of similarities. And so they do the same amount of research. I think they're about the same size. So there really is a lot with Oregon. Oregon State would be great for anybody. And Oregon State, if you look at metrics of the Big 12, Oregon State and Washington State are very quintessential, like Big 12 type schools. I know there's no money for the Big 12 to go to anybody else, but if there was, those two would be fantastic.
Well, I think it's because when we say quintessential, I think you're talking about there's no pro teams around. It's about the college. It's about the college sports. Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
the smaller. I mean, very much like Washington. I mean, Washington State's president was actually stolen from Kansas State because they're very similar.
Yeah, no, I got you. All right, Tony, so I don't want to keep you on too long because I know you got to hit a lot of shows.
Got more folks.
But this is something, USC, I like the next time we talk about it. How does USC climb so fast to number 6 in the country when they struggled before Lincoln Riley?
Here's the quick answer. Because they never should have been so bad. I mean, remember, when we were really bad, our receivers included Michael Pittman Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Drake London. Yeah. How did we lose so many games with those Hall of Famers? So we'll see.
No, absolutely. All right, hey, last question for you, brother. Who is your favorite USC running back?
My favorite USC running back. Oh, that's a good one. There's a bunch. I would lean towards Reggie Bush because he was just so magical.
Yeah.
That he's the one. But I'll also give you my favorite UCLA back too. One of the most interesting people in the history of college football that we should talk about sometime. A guy named Ronnie Knox.
Ronnie Knox, who actually changed the world through the various shenanigans of his sort of scandalous transfer from Cal to UCLA, and actually launched the Pac-12 as a result. So we'll talk about him sometime. He's a fascinating character. Well, I'll tell you what, you have an open invitation, but I will tell you mine first.
Who's yours?
Charles White.
Also great.
Yeah, he was great back then. Hey, that was student body left, student body right, man. We bring in everybody, and I loved him.
And Anthony Davis with the comeback over Notre Dame. He gets an honorable mention.
There you go. You can go down Ricky Bell. Just so many great ones, and Heisman winners as well. So
here's one last thing about USC that's kind of funny. They have all those Heismans, and somebody from the campus, when they do the Christmas decorations, each Heisman has its own little miniature Santa hat.
All right. Even though it doesn't snow, it doesn't get cold.
In LA, each Heisman has its own little Santa hat on display.
Oh, that is cool, man. That's something else. All right. Hey, Tony Altimore at TJ Altimore, obviously a man of numbers, a man of knowledge. You know what? You can come back anytime you want, which is hopefully next week. Give us an update in the Pac-12. As now, they're going to compete this year. Don't know how much enthusiasm is going to be in it, but it doesn't.
They'll go out with a bang. Just watch.
All right, very good. All right, Tony. Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Right on, Wolfman. Go Mountaineers.
Yeah, all right, thank you. See you next week. Take care. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, man, he's fascinating. It's not the old Pac-12. It's not the old Pac. It wasn't the same conference. They're saying 1912. He just proved to everybody it's not the same. And they did it. They didn't know their history. They didn't follow it. I thought that's what all the smart people were, the academics, were supposed to know about knowing your history, man. Unbelievable. All right. So that's pretty good. And what do you got here? What's up here? Timothy Green, what do you got? Thank you for the information. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel the same way, man. That was really eye-opening. And now I'm going to have to go read up by Mr. Knox there for UCLA and all that. So that's pretty good. All right. Last thing I want to do for today, and that's going to be looking at some Neal Brown stuff, some clips from, yesterday, from his press conference. I've got to go ahead and get on those. Here we go. All right. So, Neal Brown had a press conference yesterday. I took out 4 things that I wanted to just talk about. Let's hear what he has to say. And if there's any conversation here that you want to do, you can go ahead and hit me up on the boards, or you can go ahead and jump on here with this, because it was cool. I'm totally enjoying this conversation with John D'Adamo, and they're talking about what Oregon and Washington's getting. They're getting half. I remember when West Virginia went and they started off with half the first year in the Big 12. I think it was like $14 million, which is still a huge step up from the 8. I could be wrong on that number, but it wasn't. It was like half, and then 60%, 75%. It was something like that. Regardless, here is right there. You want to jump on, but here we go. Neal Brown, first bite.
Work, a lot of 11 on 11 work, and last 3 days been a grind. And so tomorrow will be a non-practice day. Friday it'll be we're gonna do some team stuff, but it won't be as physical. And then Saturday night will be our first really live scrimmage, and we'll go approximately 45-50 plays with both groups on Saturday night. and then take Sunday off, and then come back and repeat basically what we did this week. Monday, Tuesday. First day of school is Wednesday, so we'll make our, this practice will be Thursday of next week.
So he's saying that they've been going through a grind, talking about, getting better each day. It's still a little bit of grabby because you're only grabbing, you're doing two-hand touch. You're trying to work the fundamentals as best you can. I like the way he puts it. Saturday night, under the lights, looks like you're getting ready for the Penn State opener under the lights. So they're going to start practicing main scrimmages Saturday night under the lights. Big disco time. Get ready to do some hits. 45 to 50 plays, ones and twos, probably 10 to 30, 15 to 30 plays for the threes. But they're getting after, they're figuring it out. It's interesting because he's talking about so much being more physical and talking about, the grind. I have to say this, but the grind, they don't even do two-a-days anymore. All right, they talk about the grind. They're in shoulder pads. Come on. I'll tell you, you know what the grind is? When you're in your 10th day of camp, the old days, and you're just sucking wind, man. And every minute you have, you're laying down and just wishing that the season was upon you and camp was over. That would be the grind. But let's go ahead and find out here, number 2. Okay, going up. Yeah, here we go. I like this one.
We're intentional about being physical in this fall camp, and we'll tackle as much as they'll allow us to. And it's I think for us, one of the big components for us to be successful is going to be our ability to be both mentally and physically tough. And so the only thing that I know how to do is go out and practice that. And so that's what we're going to do. A good tackling drill yesterday, and we repeated it today, and I thought there was a lot of growth between day 1 and day 2. And what it comes down to is, tackling's 2 things. The first one's want to, and the second one is technique. You got to run your feet and shoot your arms. And so I thought defensively we did a lot better job. And offensively, one of the things, the key points on breaking tackles is being efficient with your moves. We say it all the time. Coach Scott says this is best moves are no moves, which means get vertical and get behind, and run behind your pads. So we made a point to really drill that, and I thought that's showing up. I think our running backs and both running backs and our big receivers are finishing plays well.
All right. So what he's saying is he wants to be more physical this year. Yeah, man. Yeah, give you a jab and a jab cross on that. Yeah, I like that. I like hearing that. I don't know why it wasn't there before. And it may be because they're just trying to do all this experimentation about camp here, can't hit here. And you got to hit. You got to tackle, and you got to be able to run through tackles. And there's only one way to do it. There's only one way to block. There's only one way to be on defense, one way to shed an offensive blocker. There's only one way to tackle. There's only one way to play the game of football. And that is you have to go good on good, fast on fast, and let it rip. Let it rip. I'm happy that I'm hearing this. I'm happy about the physicality. I'm happy that they're getting some hard-nosed, blue-collar effort. All right? I'm happy about this. It's what I've been saying all along. You can't pretend to be tough. You can't sit there and be like, I'm going to be tough when the game comes. Yeah, no, you're not. You're going to be tough with what you do in practice. That's how you play. They say you practice like you play, right? It's an old saying for a reason. Practice like you play. That's why you practice hard and you're hard-nosed. And just like Don Nalen used to put 12 and 13 guys at goal line on defense and say, hey, defense, we're running over Wolf's butt, his can. All right, stop us. We're running. I'm sitting right here. We're running a 34 belly right over Wolf. And I'm thinking, oh, great, right? But no, you have to figure out a way. Brian Jones way. It doesn't matter. Whatever. We're coming right at you, and I want you to stop us. And he did flip it over, and he did the same thing for the offense and the defense and saying, we're coming. All that. It's putting you under pressure so that you can perform. So it's your diamond with that pressure, right? Hard pressure makes that diamond. You want to shine. You want to be that diamond in the rough as they talk about. Well, it all fits together. Not sure why. We're just figuring that out right now. Here we go. Here's the next one coming on up. Let's go ahead. I like this one. I like it, but don't get me wrong. I like the fact that they're going physical. Love it. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Well, yeah. I think Anthony Wilson's making a big jump to be ready to play. He's one. At corner, I think Jacoby Spells has really looked good through 7 practices. And my expectation was for him to be better, and he's made plays. And he's not only made plays on defense but special teams. Beanie Bishop he's pushing, and he's got experience, but he's got personality. He's got good energy, and he's consistent. And so he's been, just from having him in the room, and then going, just talking about some guys. Mike Lockhart made a big-time play today. I think he's starting to separate himself there at that position. And then Eddie Vestorinian's had a nice camp. As far as the will linebacker, we'll wait till we get through Saturday, because I think Saturday is going to be the big test there. At tight end, Cole Taylor and Traylon Davis both have separated themselves. Devin Carter continues to do really good things. And I think that, as far as just talking about E.J. Horton, made a couple plays downfield today. And so he's given himself an opportunity to play. And then, Jaheim White, he didn't finish practice today, but given opportunities 11 on 11, he's made big plays.
All right, so he's naming some players right there. They're stepping up. Cole Taylor, Traylon Davis, separating themselves as the 2 tight ends that are going to be there. Good news to have that this young in camp, because the tight end is a huge position. And I've been saying this for the last 10 years about how college football, they don't use the tight end the way they should, like the NFL. I'm not saying every team has to have NFL players. You don't have to be that good of tight ends like a Kelsey and all the. You don't have to be that good, but you can use your tight ends. You can call plays designed for your tight ends. It's doable, and it's very, very doable. So I hope, especially with these 2 separating themselves this early in camp, that it gives them confidence as coaches to go ahead and put the confidence in these guys. Because Cole Taylor, obviously, is 6'7". He's got a big upside, especially in the red zone, right? Throwing that ball, getting a little bit higher, going over those safeties. And Traylon Davis is a big man. So, again, being able to use that's good. Anthony Wilson, the safety. Mountaineers, that we need safeties it can't just all be, Aubrey Burks. It can't all be that. We have to have safeties in the secondary ready to go for them to stand out. Again, I'm seeing this, the pads aren't really there yet, because Saturday night, again, is the first big scrimmage. But these are good words. And you're hearing it. E.J. Horton, a wide receiver. Man, we need some receivers. Devin Carter. Devin Carter was going to be what Devin Carter does, and that is create big plays, and he's a player. But we need more receivers to be able to step up and mesh with the quarterback. And so, speaking of quarterbacks, let's get to the last one. And let's talk about this one, Nico and Garrett. I thought this was interesting.
Talk about them each individually, not necessarily about who's ahead and who's not. Just starting with Nico, Nico making growth as a redshirt freshman. Yesterday, if about halfway through practice, was probably as poor decision making as he's made, and then he was able to correct it, which I think is a sign of mental toughness. And he went a stretch there again where he made some bad decisions. And then 4 out of his next 6 plays were explosive plays. And so to see him kind of take an ass chewing and be able to bounce back and answer, I was really encouraged with that. We did a lot of red zone work today, and it was a little bit of ebb and flow with him, but he made 2 really big time plays. And so encouraged You know, we got to clean up some of those decisions, but encouraged with how he handled adversity, because as coaches, you try to create that. You know, that kind of happened naturally yesterday, but you try to create it. I think Garrett had a couple big runs today in a team period. We're not tackling those guys, but he had a couple big runs, and then he made really a tight throw down in the red zone, and so we're continuing to rotate those guys, and we'll do it. You know, when we're going to name a starter, I don't really have an answer for you. I know y'all don't like that, but I don't really have an answer for that. But we're continuing. They each are getting reps. Sean Boyle had his best day yesterday too. I should say that. And he can really run.
Oh Lord, please don't say Sean Boyle. Don't bring him up in the same breath, please. We're not ready for that. We need a starter. We need a 1 and a 2. You know, again, let's talk about what's he really saying right there about Nico. And what he's saying is, this is a redshirt freshman. I'm going to tell you something. Redshirt freshman, because now they're getting action. Usually a true freshman is on the scout team. So you're not getting frustrated with him too much because he's out there on the scout team. The graduate assistants are out there working them and giving them good prep for the varsity, right? Making sure they're ready for good prep. You as a position coach don't usually see him too often in the course of a practice, especially during teamwork. But so when you get redshirt freshmen and they're like, oh man, and you're going to chew their cans out. I got my butt chewed out over and over and over again as I played as a redshirt freshman on the offensive line. And I had to learn and had to deal with getting my butt chewed out and have the mental toughness and the mental acuity to move on when they say, don't worry about the last play, worry about the next play. Well, it's not so easy when there's a big, bad dude right across lining up over you. And you're 18 and or 19, whatever it is, and they're 22. And they've been in the weight room under Mike Joseph for the last 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is. But they've been in college ball, and they have what we call the beginnings of man strength. There's something to it. So the frustration and coaches chewing at you, the pressure, add on to that, you are the quarterback. So you're the cog that makes everything else go. There's a lot of pressure. So mental toughness is got to be huge. Now, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not positive, that Nico, when I saw him at the game in high school, was Bishop Gorman, where he had the incredible comeback. If I'm wrong about Bishop Gorman, I'm sorry. But it's one of those teams. It was on ESPN, national game, and he brought the team back. I have no doubt, just like Oklahoma State, where he got it done. Wasn't great. He was a true freshman, and a team, Oklahoma State, was on a 14-game win streak, and they won. And again, you can say defense played well, which they did. Defense played well. And you can say that Oklahoma State was not very interested, which they weren't. They weren't with their quarterback, Spencer Sanders. But you know what, man? That's the truth of the matter, is that Nico was the quarterback, and he made some really huge key first downs in that. So, mental toughness, yeah, I think he's got it, and I'm excited. He's a redshirt freshman, man. He's a 4-star quarterback with a huge cannon. He's smart as heck, and he has the strength, the willpower, the toughness, okay, the composure to come back and make some explosive plays, as you heard Neal Brown say. Again, this is somebody you want in your foxhole. He's telling you this in the very beginning of camp. Because again, as a redshirt freshman, pull your hair out sometimes, man. Because you're like, what are you doing with your decision making? And to go ahead and come back and strike it back, yeah, that's mental toughness. I don't question his mental toughness, not whatsoever. I don't question his talent. I don't question his gun. This kid, if given an opportunity, this young man, I'm a kid. I can't even say kid anymore. It's not. He's a young man. Given an opportunity, is going to do wonders for the Mountaineers. He's going to have some growing problems. Everybody has growing issues. Major Harris had growing issues. I played with him. I know. All right? He had growing issues about running as a quarterback, but he turned into be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time at WVU and across the country at that time, because he was always there in the Heisman, the race up there. He was there 2 years in a row, right there in New York for the Heisman. So I know he's pretty darn good. Okay, and when I see talent like this, Nico Marchio's potential right now, I'm telling you, this is everything I say is the truth, because the truth is always part of the call. The ability that Nico Marchio has is just like a Will Grier type quarterback, just like it. I'm not saying he's exactly like Will Grier, but what I'm saying, he's got the talents and the arm, the pressure, the brains, all this. And I'm just saying it right now. He's a redshirt freshman. This guy is being groomed to be special, whether it's at WVU or somewhere else. He's being groomed to be special. And hopefully it's here. You got Garrett Green. Okay, go ahead. Good job. Love Garrett Green. You got a quarterback doing great. He's been there a couple of years. He made some good runs. That's what he does. He runs. Okay? If we go with Garrett Green, that's one thing. That's fine. But make no mistake. If you want to be successful, you're going to have to know where your horse is, where your big, big horse is. And that's the truth of the call of what I'm saying. You got to know you have a 4-star quarterback, West Virginia. You have a 4-star because he is a 4-star quarterback, because he's got guts. He's got talent. He's got talent. And that's what they're grooming for him right now. And he's in competition. And that is the key. They got to give him that shot, that opportunity. That's Neal Brown's decision. And we'll see Garrett Green. Gotta love Garrett Green. Who doesn't love Garrett Green? He's a great kid. Now, if you want the truth of the matter, for me, because again, the truth is always in the call, is Garrett Green. If he had an opportunity on the field in the slot, he might have a shot to go to the next level. So if you want the benefit, if that's just my call, that's what I think. I love Garrett Green. I want to be successful. If he's the quarterback, that's great. Then we'll go. But make no mistake, in my mind, barring any injuries from any of them, then Nico Marchio will prove himself throughout the season because he's got more abilities than a quarterback. He's taller. He's got the idea. He can stand there in the pocket. Again, I don't favor Nico because I like Nico better than Garrett Green. I like them both. But when I'm breaking them down, I see that the talent is there. Now you can say, hey, Garrett Green is this and that. Okay, good. I'm not going to rip. Garrett Green's he's a young boy. He's a brother, man. Brother Mountaineer. I don't want to hurt him. I want to benefit him. If it was up to me, I would tell him the truth and be really honest with him and say, you could be really successful over here. You could have a future, possibly. But you can't have a future if you don't ever practice that. I mean, that's just not it. I mean, you got to be able to work it for the next year or two to get a shot. It's my opinion. It's all it is my opinion. But it is the WolfMan's call, and that's why I have this show, because my call, my truth in my mind. I'm 100% behind Garrett Green. If he's the guy, I'm going to go with him. But, again, I'm going to stick with what I said. It's going to come a time of reckoning. It's going to happen. You know why? Because the guy's got more potential at that position. Not more position as a football player. More potential at that position. All right. That's what I'm saying right now, and I'm going to stick with it. It's good stuff. And anybody else that wants to jump on, do you want to jump on? John, thanks for having me. John the Animal, man. I like you, John. I like you. Even though you're a Big Ten guy, I like you. You're a smart guy, smart dude. Listen, man, this week we've had Twisted Rooster. We had Talk His Pit. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you don't know what your enemy's doing, man, I think, you got to have smarts. You got to know what your enemy's doing. Know what your enemies are up to. All right? He knows it, and he doesn't even like his own fan base, so I'm actually not too bad with him. But then we had John the Animal today. And then we had Tony Altimore, who just blew my mind with the fact that the Pac-12, they say 1912. No, it's not. It was different leagues. And the same thing happened. They didn't learn from their history. And you can see the results of that. So that was cool. And I like him. He's a USC guy. I like USC. I've always been a love running backs of USC. Troy Polamalu played there. I mean, come on now, right? I mean, that's the greatest safety of all time in the NFL. The Steelers, Troy Polamalu, right? USC. All right. Anyone else? Does anybody want to jump in the show? Nobody wants to challenge me, huh? Challenge me about Garrett Green or Nico. Nobody wants to challenge me about what I say. Okay, well, that's good, because I know you're all going to be talking about it behind my back. And that's all right as well. Well, everybody, I'm waiting. I'm trying to stall a little bit, but I think time is running out. It is Thursday. Next week, we're going to have it. So we have so much going on. I was talking to Hawkeye today, Keith Hawkins, comes on the show. And, we got so much with Daryl Prue. He's back. He was in Ocean City, Maryland, again on vacation. Dude's always on vacation, right? And he'll be back on next week to give us his views. And we're going to be getting into some basketball. We love basketball just as well right here. But we're covering a lot of stuff here on this show. Got to put out there Monday through Thursday, 2 hours a day. You got to love the network. Hey, I think I forgot Mountaineer Tap House on Oakland Street here in Morgantown with Melissa Mel. So, Mel, if you're out there, I'm sorry. I think I forgot you the intro of the network. I don't know how I could have done that, because you know what? I love you. So I'm sorry about that. And then, you got to think about everybody in the network. Everybody. All from Hinton to Fairmont to Morgantown, Teays Valley, oh my gosh, Weirton, it's awesome. Bridgeport, all of you there. We appreciate you. Love the network, man. And I just want everybody, have a safe weekend. Mountaineer fans, let's go WVU. I see Neal Brown is really trying to focus on getting more physical, because that's what the team was lacking, in my opinion, for most of last season. Was not only that, but it was youth. It was an experience. It was the ability to not anticipate. It was miscommunication. I'm going to finish the second half next week, Oklahoma State game. And we're going to break down some more guys that are coming in as for freshman recruits. I want to break down the defensive lineman and see where he's at. So we got a lot of breaking down, a lot of talking, conference realignment. It's the best here. Dan Manucci, man. Manucci. And he's awesome. I love him so much. Roc Manuch. Love Roc too. You'll meet him one day if you haven't already out there. And we're gonna have national reps coming in here on the WolfMan's Call. And Thursday, I thank you so much for the week. It's been fun. I'm about WVU, but I'm also about football and sports. And we're gonna cover it all here. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Traylon Davis. I'm from Jackson, Ohio, and when I'm back home, you will find me at my local Parmar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Parmar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Parmar stores.
If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Northern Eagle Distributors, proudly serving West Virginia. Stationers, #1 office supplier in West Virginia, always in stock. How many? The anywhere, anytime chargers, powering a connected world. Never buy AA batteries again. Rechargeable 500 times plus. Paul Mini AA USB lithium battery, as easy to charge as your cell phone. Sustainable energy. Stay charged. Go green, save green. Feel the power of Paul. Order now at paulmini.com.